About the biggest stories that matter to you the most. Breaking news, John Calipari is finalizing a 5-year deal to become the Arkansas Razorbacks' next head coach, covering college sports like no one else. The biggest guests in sports. We now welcome in Hall of Famer Jim Calhoun.
Such a pride I had, I came to connect.
The legend, Tim Tebow, joins us.
We'll run it back. I like it.
The legend, Herschel Walker. Welcome in, everybody. Little Wednesday morning edition, Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great day. We're back to the 11 Eastern start time, and it is because we got a monster show for you today. So excited for everything that we're going to discuss. We will open Arkansas Razorbacks, a second straight dominant win on Tuesday night. What does it mean? Are they ready to turn a corner? John Calipari's got his boys looking good. From there, a little bit of an upset Tuesday type thing. North Carolina loses, Iowa State loses, Illinois loses. What does it mean? What does it not mean? Jordan Smith Jr., by the way, that's a big one right there. The number 2 ranked player in America. The crystal balls are rolling in. I kind of tried to tell you where this was going to end up, and it looks like it's headed that way. And then we will wrap the show. Really fun interview. Cameron Mills, the Kentucky Sports Radio Network. Cameron Mills is a friend of mine. He's been a friend for years. He does radio for the Kentucky basketball broadcasts, and really just thought with Kentucky kind of on that off week, this would be a good time to bring on Cameron Mills to talk a little bit of Kentucky basketball. So before we get started, a couple quick reminders. Make sure you're subscribed to Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up every single day. We really do appreciate your support. By the way, drop your comments in the comment section. Let's get that comment section humming. But make sure you're subscribed. Also, if you are listening not on YouTube, you can always subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We really do appreciate your support of the show. And so make sure you're subscribed. Leave a 5-star rating and review. You know who else's support we appreciate? Our friends and the official hotel and casino partner of the Aaron Torres Pod. Yeah, I'm talking about Circa Casino and Circa Sportsbook, okay? So listen, when you're in Vegas, no better place to watch games than the beautiful Circa Sportsbook in Las Vegas, biggest sportsbook in the world. They were humming for the NFL playoffs and Super Bowl the last few weeks. But I know a lot of you can't make it to Vegas. And so if you are looking for a place on the East Coast to watch all the big games in the lead up to college basketball season, you have to check out the brand new Circa Sportsbook, Mint, Kentucky Downs. The Mint is what the kids call it in beautiful Franklin, Kentucky. Okay, it's about 40 minutes from Nashville. I always mention producer Matt and I will be doing some shows at the Mint right in the lead up to the SEC tournament. So if you're going up to Nashville, it's an easy getaway for you. Also about 30 minutes from Bowling Green, Kentucky. So an easy drive there. And just a great place on a Saturday when you want all the big college basketball games, college football during the regular season. And it's that time of year. You certainly need more than one screen at this time of year. Make sure to check out the brand new Circa Sportsbook at the Mint Gaming Hall, Mint, Kentucky Downs, Franklin, Kentucky. We are so grateful for the support of the Mint and so grateful for the support of the Aaron Torres Pod. With that said, it's a busy Wednesday in the world of sports. There is no more time to waste, so people, let's do it. Let's get to the topic of the day. Topic of the day, Tuesday was a little bit of a slower day in terms of, news cycle, if you will. Nate Oates is still whining about Charles Bediako. Another conversation for another day. The Darren Peterson thing is not going away. But on the court, I actually thought you could argue the most interesting result to me was the Arkansas Razorbacks going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana to face the LSU Fighting Tigers, okay? So bottom line is this, is a couple things. Is one, we know Arkansas is good. We know they have talent. We know that at the beginning of the year, top 15, top 20 team. But to me, the big question with Arkansas has always been, can they do it consistently? Can game over game, day over day, week over week, can they not only start stacking wins, but can they start stacking really good performances? It's funny. I'll get to the game on Tuesday night in half a second. But I remember, about 3 weeks ago, Arkansas destroyed Vandy at Bud Walton Arena, and I had people, why aren't you talking about Arkansas more? And I said, well, listen, it was a great win, but this is a team that's good enough to win the SEC. It's a team that's good enough to be in Indianapolis. And so can we string together 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 great performances in a row? You don't have to win every game. But can you come out and can you definitively say at the end of the game, you left it all on the floor, that it was like an A+, A-, B+ effort, okay? Well, I bring it up because after beating Mississippi State by 20 points on Saturday, Arkansas played LSU. Final score in this game, the Arkansas Razorbacks with the 91-62 win. That score is actually a little deceptively low. Arkansas was up by 30 with 9 minutes to go. They were up by more when John Calipari pulled the starters at about the 4-minute mark. Darius Acuff came out at the under 4-minute timeout. And I'll tell you this, it might be two of the worst teams in the SEC, but you go on the road, win at the Hump on Saturday, a place that, by the way, Arkansas has historically struggled, and then you get the win on Tuesday night. I'm not quite ready to say the Big Pig invasion is here, but what I am here to say is that you needed, coming out of that off week a week ago, you needed 2 dominant wins. You got it, and now I think you got to feel good going into the final stretch of the season. As far as Tuesday night's concerned, we don't have to spend a ton of time talking about a 29-point win, but I do think it's kind of worth noting from this perspective. One, Arkansas is actually down a couple guys. Of course, remember, DJ Wagner and Carter Knox are both out with injury. And I bring it up because I think you can look at it as a negative, but I think you can look at it as a positive as well. Fewer guys in the rotation, fewer guys that are playing. One, a guy like Isaiah Sealy is getting his first significant run in SEC play as an Arkansas Razorback. But what it really means is tighter rotation, tighter roles, all of that. And that's exactly what we saw, is guys know who they are, what their role is, where to go, what to do, how to play with each other. And again, I thought it was the most complete performance of the season, maybe, for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Obviously, the story continues to be Darius Acuff. I've done the back and forth with him, Otega Owe, maybe Tyler Tanner, 1 or 2 other guys for SEC Player of the Year. I thought it was funny. Damian Fishback was on the call, and Damian Fishback said, I haven't believed that Darius Acuff should be SEC Player of the Year. Maybe they put me on this call specifically so that I could see this guy in person, because he is unbelievable. Another great night. I don't really know what else there is to say about Darius Acuff at this point. 28 points, 5 assists. And I think what continues to stand out about him is the consistency with which he plays and the fact that he's able to put up points without forcing it, right? It's one thing to get 28 points on, 27 shots. 13 of 22 from the field for Darius Acuff. So you do the math, that's about 66% shooting percentage. Better than that. Yeah, it's 66%. It's whatever. I'm not here to do math, okay? I'm like Cardale Jones. I ain't here to do school, okay? I'm here to talk sports, okay? Anyway, good performance, shot well over 50% from beyond the from the field. And then, again, everybody else started to step up. I think, listen, Trevin Brazil, we've said it time and time again. I think he is the toughest matchup in college basketball when he is fully locked in. Well, you talk about just an unbelievable performance from him in this game. 14 points, 12 rebounds, 4 steals, and 5 blocks. And listen, I'm not going to be the first. I won't be the last. John Calipari will not be afraid to say it publicly. Can we get that Trevin Brazil every single night? Because if you can, there is nobody quite like him in college basketball, and he is one of the biggest matchup problems in the sport. As I mentioned, Isaiah Sealy got some run. Malik Thomas, another really good game for him. 20 points on 6 of 13 shooting. Thought he played well defensively. And then with the injuries, more time for Billy Richmond, more time for other guys. Little bit of a concerning note. Malik Ewan did leave the game with blood all over his face. I saw all sorts of different things. I did see Cal say after the game that he needed some stitches, but that, hey, we got off until Saturday, and the insinuation was I expect him back in the lineup for Saturday. So small picture, Arkansas gets a second straight win. Now I think we got to talk big picture, because to me, again, I do think that this is a team that is still listen, look at the standings in the SEC. They are one game back right now of Florida in first place. If Florida loses at Kentucky, Florida is going to fall back. And assuming Arkansas wins on Saturday, guess what? Arkansas is tied for the SEC lead if they are to get the win on Saturday against Auburn. And so big picture, first of all, I think this has to be a positive if you're Arkansas. Historically, John Calipari's best teams always figure things out in February. I know what everyone's going to say. Well, then what about this year in March and that year in March? Okay, I looked it up to confirm. Even last year, as bad as it went. By the way, last year I was thinking about this. The last time, you want to know how far things have come? The last time Arkansas went to LSU, they were 0-4 in SEC play. Remember, last year they fell to 0-4 in SEC play. Trevin Brazil, there was like a weird foul, like 50 feet from the basket, whatever. But I only bring it up because of the fact that you fast forward, they are now a game back in the SEC. They could be tied for the SEC lead by the end of the day on Saturday, okay? And so I only bring it up to say things are good, vibes are good. I'm certainly curious to see what happens as guys start to get healthy, as DJ Wagner comes back, as Carter Knox comes back. Thought it was interesting, after that Kentucky game, remember, Cal said, hey, man, we need to get Carter Knox going. And I told him we cannot be the best version of ourselves if you are not the best version of yourself. So curious to see what he looks like when he comes back. DJ Wagner, we know that Arkansas shook up the lineup a few days ago or a few games ago to try to get him going. So I just think bigger picture, I think the question to me becomes, okay, can you get the guys going that you need to have the depth that you're going to need? Because, again, I don't think you can get by, as Arkansas learned last year, with 6 players in the world of college basketball in 2026. So I think it's fascinating. But I think what's interesting is, like I said, one, Cal's best teams always play their best late in the year. Like I said, I know what everyone's going to say. Go back the last 2 years. 12-4 overall from February 10th on in SEC play. 12-4 overall. Again, still not great at math, but that's a 75% win percentage. They got hot late last year. His final year at Kentucky, if you remember, they were playing as well as anybody to end the regular season. They ended the regular season winning at Tennessee. That was the year Tennessee had Dalton Connect. And so his teams always get better, and now it's just about, can you do it consistently, game over game, week over week? And really, I think that's where it gets interesting for this Arkansas team, is just the conversation of what becomes of this team going down the home stretch. Because I think there's a positive negative the way that you can look at the final stretch of the schedule. The positive negative is all the bad teams are done, right? You've beaten LSU twice like you needed to do. You beat Oklahoma. You destroyed South Carolina at home. Rest of the schedule, though, is not easy. Matt, if you have the rest of the schedule, you can go ahead and pop it up. Auburn this weekend. Auburn's not playing great right now. They've lost 3 straight, but one, they went BTA on you when they were in Neville Arena a few weeks ago. Game you got to win, right? But Auburn is going to come in hungry. That is a team that has already beaten you. I think it's worth noting. Missouri, Joe Lunardi's first 4 out right now, of the NCAA tournament. Are they going to build their resume off of beating you twice, or are you going to put them in a really bad position by beating them twice and essentially knock them out of the tournament? Those are games that you can and should win if you are Arkansas. A&M's really good. Florida's really good, as you may have heard. Alabama, listen, I've criticized how the roster was put together. Nate Oates is still a great coach, though. And so I just bring it up because 7 games left, all against teams that are NCAA tournament capable. And like I said, you don't need to go 7-0 in those 7 games, but can you look like the team that you're truly capable of over that stretch? Can you look like the team that you need to be so once you get into that big bracket, you have a chance to really make a run, which I think this team can. But you go 3-4 down this stretch, you go 4-3, all of a sudden that seat, and this is a quick side story, but I went on my buddy Wes Moore's show yesterday on Tuesday, and we talked about this. This is a team, everything is in front of them. They go 6-1, you're probably looking at like a 3 seed. Then all of a sudden think about the pathway that you are going to potentially have to a Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4. You go 4-3 during this stretch, it gets a little bit different. So to me, just give credit where it's due. They needed to dominate 2 straight games. They dominate 2 straight games against Mississippi State and LSU. And so we'll see what happens from here. Should mention, by the way, our Torres on the Hogs account for all of your late-breaking Arkansas news. By the way, I'm about to blow producer Matt's mind right now. We have our Big Pig Invasion tease. Matt, you haven't seen that. I figured that out while you were without power. Big Pig Invasion tease. You can see it right there. Just click that QR code, baby. You can get your Big Pig Invasion tee. But bring it up solely to say Arkansas, those 2 straight wins. I keep saying it. John Rothstein, the line that John Rothstein always uses. This time of year, at minimum, you want to be in position to be in position. The Arkansas Razorbacks, that's exactly where they are. 18-6 overall, 8-3 in the SEC. Can they keep the momentum going this weekend against Auburn? Because, again, these are the games you got to win. Like, I like Auburn, like Stephen Pearl, but you're at home against a team that's lost 3 straight. Put the nail in the coffin. So we'll see what happens. Arkansas returns to the court against Auburn on Saturday. Like I said, all 7 of their remaining games against teams that could conceivably make the tournament gives you plenty of opportunities for quality wins. By the way, I saw that with the win, LSU, even though their win-loss record isn't great, is a quad 1 game, improved in the net, improved in the, Ken Palm rankings, which are part of actually the algorithm for the NCAA tournament. So good night overall for Arkansas. Should mention, by the way, could be a really good week for Arkansas because in a few minutes, we're going to come back and talk Jordan Smith. Before we do this, what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get to the rest of a busy Tuesday night. I call it a little bit of an upset Tuesday. UNC falls, Iowa State falls, Illinois falls. What does it mean? Then we'll get to Jordan Smith. And I should mention Cameron Mills, UK Sports Radio Network, will join us in just a few minutes. Cannot wait to speak to him about the Kentucky Wildcats. Quick break. Rest of Tuesday in college hoops. Be right back. All right, we're going to get back to the show in a minute. But before we do, you know what we got to do. We got to thank our friends. We got to thank our partners. We got to go ahead and thank Cauley Puffs and CauleyPuffs.com. Yeah, you see the logo on the back of the screen right here. Okay, so I've told you all about Cauley Puffs, but family-owned company, not far from where I live. Joey, a huge sports fan. And one day he was sitting on the couch and he said, you know what? I need a snack that is both healthy but delicious, something my kids are going to love, something my family's going to love, something I'm going to love. And so he came up with Cauley Puffs. This is the new age health food snack. You don't need to go to the grocery aisle and buy all that crap, the Doritos, the Fritos. No, my friends, you need Cauley Puffs. Baked, not fried, avocado oil, no grease, healthy ingredients. But here's the best part. They taste freaking delicious. Actually, there's another best part. In addition to tasting delicious, in addition to being healthy, they are also taking care of listeners of the Aaron Torres pod. Okay, so check this out. All you got to do is go to CauleyPuffs.com. That's CauleyPuffs.com, CauleyPuffs.com, and you can get 15% off any purchase with the promo code Torres. That's Torres, Torres. It's that simple. 15% off any purchase. 1 bag to try them out, 100 bags to cater a party. Doesn't really matter. Promo code Torres. CauleyPuffs.com gets you 15% off. Cauley Puffs also available on Amazon. You obviously can't get the promo code there, but CauleyPuffs.com, CauleyPuffs.com, promo code Torres gets you 15% off any purchase. Thank you to our friends at Cauley Puffs. All right, everybody. I am back. Good to be back. Good to be back. Chat is very quiet today. Very disappointing. Let's get to it, people. I need to hear from you. What do you think? What do you think about the state of college hoops? It's going to be a busy few months. By the way, we are less than 50 subscribers away from 70,000. So, yeah, if you know anybody that loves college hoops, let them know about the channel. Let them know about the podcast. We appreciate your support. All right, let's keep it going. Tuesday night in college hoops. I think the best way to just describe it is kind of an upset Tuesday type situation. A lot of good teams going on the road. And before we even all right, I'm back. Good to be back. Good to be back. Matt, thumbs up. Can you hear me? All that? Okay, cool. It's always something. It's always something when you're talking upsets. But let's talk upset Tuesday in the world of college basketball. And the one thing I'll say really quick about this is this. I'm not going to go crazy overreacting, right? Listen, it is February. I think teams are mentally tired. I think teams are emotionally tired. You're kind of in that rut of league play. And so I only bring it up to say that, like, to me, when I look at some of these results, I don't think it's some crazy indictment on this team or that team, but you get teams that are playing well. You get teams that are going on the road. You get teams that are playing other teams that need a win. All of a sudden, it's a situation where stuff happens, weird stuff happens. And oh, by the way, all the teams that pulled off the upsets on Tuesday night sort of needed the wins. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first game of note, North Carolina at Miami. So North Carolina goes to Miami. Miami gets the victory in this game. It was actually a really fun game. Final score 75-66. The Miami Hurricanes get the W. Okay. So first of all, I know what Carolina fans think I'm going to do, which is freak out and overreact. And Carolina's it is. That's not what I'm going to do. You're coming off the emotional win against Duke. You are playing a Miami team that, one, I actually think is very good. But two, to me, this game is more about the Miami win than the UNC loss. Miami very firmly on the bubble, according to Joe Lunardi, and according to all bracketologists. By the way, just as kind of a point of reference, I will probably just from going forward just be referencing Joe Lunardi's bracketology. There's a lot of different brackets out there. Some of them, certain people like certain brackets more than others. Joe Lunardi's just kind of like the industry standard, so it's just going to be easiest to reference his going forward, okay? But Miami coming into the game, last four into the NCAA field. In other words, they would be in Dayton if the tournament ended today or started today, according to Joe Lunardi. And so I just bring it up because that is an important reference point as far as I'm concerned. We can sit here and pick apart Carolina and what went wrong. First of all, Caleb Wilson got hurt, went back to the locker room, ended up coming back in the game. Kind of says a lot with the Darren Peterson situation, another conversation. But I bring it up because for the game itself, it was more about Miami getting the win. Listen, Miami doesn't really have a ton of really bad losses on their resume. I think you could probably say that a loss to a much improved Florida State team is probably the worst loss on the resume. The issue for Miami is that they really don't have a lot of great wins, and this would certainly qualify as that, as Miami improves to 19-5 with the victory, and overall they've won 4 of their last 5. So this certainly helps them to get into the NCAA tournament. I think what's more interesting from the Miami perspective, they kind of have this balance of big games that ultimately won't hurt them if they lose, but will help them if they win. At NC State this weekend, Will Wade's team playing well despite the loss to Louisville. At SMU, at Virginia, Miami closes the season with Louisville at home. So there are a lot of big games still on the schedule that they can improve the resume. I think for Miami, it's more about not taking bad losses. You have to win the return game against Florida State. Virginia Tech is still on the bubble. You play them. Boston College is just flat out bad. You got to get the victory there. So congrats to Miami. Not going to pick apart Carolina. I don't think it's the worst loss you could take. Certainly, it's not a loss that you want to take, but I think Carolina is going to be fine. Carolina, again, a little bit of an emotional situation coming off of the win over Duke. I think the only thing this really does, it does probably eliminate North Carolina from an ACC regular season title conversation. They just took their 4th loss in league play. Duke only has 1. Clemson only has 1. I think if you were hoping for that banner at the Dean Dome, it's probably not going to happen. Let's keep it going with the intriguing conversation about the bubble and about Upset Tuesday. Let's go to Fort Worth, Texas, where TCU upsets Iowa State 62-55. To me, the vibes are actually very similar to North Carolina and Miami. I could make a big stink about Iowa State losing this game, but they go on the road. They play a TCU team that was desperate for a win, and TCU gets it. First of all, I don't think TCU's that bad. TCU's biggest issue as far as the NCAA tournament picture is concerned is they lost on opening night to New Orleans, okay? Not the Saints, not the Pelicans, nobody that you know. Zion Williamson wasn't on the floor when they lost to New Orleans on opening night. But I'll tell you this, is that, first of all, this notion that one game does not matter in a college basketball season, it does. I hate that. I even hate it in Major League Baseball. Oh, it's 1 of 162. No. The season could come down to one game to win the division, to go to the playoffs, to get a wild card. So don't tell me that any individual game doesn't matter, and that's where TCU is right now, okay? They lose to New Orleans on opening night. It's been this albatross around their neck, and what's crazy is they've actually played well otherwise. They beat Florida in the out-of-conference. They beat Wisconsin in the out-of-conference. They should have beaten Kansas at Kansas. Remember, it was the beginning of this run that Kansas is on. TCU had them dead to rights and fell apart, ended up losing in overtime to Kansas. So they're a good team. They needed a signature win. They get a signature win. They weren't even in the next 4 out, according to Joe Lunardi. They get the win over Iowa State. And what's interesting about TCU, what's interesting about them, because the Big 12 has backloaded the schedules with all of the good teams playing each other, so Arizona, BYU, Houston, Kansas, Iowa State are all playing each other still, Texas Tech. TCU actually has a very manageable schedule going forward. Probably the biggest game left on their schedule. They do play Texas Tech, but other than that, UCF. Then they got at Oklahoma State, who they already beat, West Virginia, Arizona State, Cincinnati. You win those 4 games, you're going 9-9 in the Big 12. That might be enough to get you in the tournament. If not, it's certainly enough to have you on the bubble going into the Big 12 tournament, where you probably only need to win one game. So for TCU, it's really just about not taking any bad losses. And then if you can get one more good win, I think it'll probably be enough. By the way, forget the Lunardi bracketology. Producer Matt has just texted me to tell me that he believes TCU will be a trendy upset pick and his official upset pick if they are to make a bracket. Iowa State, all I'll say from their perspective, 21-3. I do think, listen, one, like so many teams, the schedule gets crazy down the stretch. How about this for a next 3? Kansas at home, Houston at home, at BYU, okay? So I think the bigger thing from my perspective from Iowa State is, like North Carolina, it probably does eliminate you from a legitimate run at a Big 12 regular season title. I just think it's going to be really, really, really tough to get the wins that you need. I still think they're good, but I mean, you talk about every game mattering. I do think it's one of those things that it could come back to bite you. And I think as importantly, and I think this is the important part as well, is that I also think from the Iowa State perspective could cost them a seed line come Selection Sunday. Not a terrible loss by any means, but not a loss that you wanted if you're Iowa State. Finally, let's get to Wisconsin, Illinois. Illinois coming in off the very controversial overtime loss to Michigan State. They return home. A week ago, we were talking about, are they a national championship contender? They had won 12 or 13 in a row. They fall to Wisconsin at home. Final score 92-90 in overtime. Listen, as far as this game is concerned, a couple things. One, Brad Underwood was not happy with the refs. I did not send Matt the video. I didn't send you any video, right, Matt? Just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, okay? There was a video of Brett Underwood like, these refs are terrible. The ref we had tonight, I haven't even seen him in 3 years. Where did he come from? But listen, at the end of the day, they also allowed Wisconsin to make 16 3-pointers, shoot 43% from the field. And oh, by the way, Wisconsin was basically even on the boards with them, and Wisconsin only committed 4 total turnovers. So you can sit here and talk about the refs this, the refs that. I'm sorry, when Wisconsin makes 16 threes and only turns the ball over 4 times, things are going to work out pretty well. And so I just bring it up because from the Illinois perspective, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Another team that probably a loss sort of eliminates you maybe from Big Ten regular season title contention. Michigan now has a 2-game lead in the league going into a game tonight. What I think is interesting from the Wisconsin perspective, they were basically a loss would have almost put them on the bubble. They're a 9 seed right now. Wisconsin has the wildest resume you've ever seen because they're the only team to beat Michigan. They won at Michigan. Remember, that was another game where they went lights out from 3. And then, oh, by the way, they now have a win at Illinois. Like, I don't think it's hyperbole to say they are in the short conversation for team with the best pair of wins in college basketball at Illinois, at Michigan. It does not get much better than that. Wisconsin should be dancing. You know, how much noise can they make? That's another conversation for another day. But just a great win for the Wisconsin Badgers, who with the victory are now 17-7, 9-4 in the Big Ten overall. I don't really think they were actually on the bubble, but I think now it's about avoiding bad losses. They still have Ohio State. They still have a very bad Oregon team late. Good win for Wisconsin. One final result from Tuesday night that I do want to talk about really quick, because I think it was an important one for a few different reasons. BYU goes to Baylor. BYU gets the victory in this game. Final score 99-94. Now, it was significant to me for a couple of reasons. The first one being pretty straightforward. BYU just needed that win, man. BYU was on a 4-game losing streak. Listen, we've talked about them a lot. They're dealing with a lot of injuries, and I know all teams are dealing with injuries, but they had 3 guys that were supposed to be part of their rotation, including their 6th and 7th guys, Dawson Baker and Nate Pickens, who are both out for the year. And I just don't think they have enough depth. And it's a great win. I don't think this means that they're now back to being a 3 seed and they're going to go on a 7-game winning streak to end the regular season. But this was just a win that they needed to get. And I thought it was significant for a couple reasons beyond just the win. One, they fell down 12, and it felt like a game where it's just like, is this just going to be one of those games where they just take another loss and it's just over? And I think you could see after the game, you know, Kevin Young, I actually give him a lot of credit. You know, he's a guy not too high, not too low. And I think that's part of the NBA culture of, you know, again, one game, just, you know, you're not going to freak out over one game or even even the best teams in the NBA can go on a 2, 3, 4-game losing streak. Okay. But I thought after the game, it was pretty cool. Locker room, let the kids celebrate. It was the first time they had won in a couple weeks. He let the water bottles fly. He let everybody have a good time. And you could tell he was pretty fired up. The other reason that I think this game is noteworthy, at least for me to talk about, AJ DeBonta was insane, okay? And putting aside the off-the-court conversation, if you want the argument for why AJ DeBonta should go number 1, go ahead and put on the tape of this game. 36 points on 14 of 20 shooting. So again, I'm not going to try to do the math, but that's 7 of 10. That's 70% shooting from the field. Here's the other thing, and this to me is important. One, he just looked like a number 1 overall pick, but he played all 40 minutes in this win. Again, I'm sure it's not what Kevin Young's plan was going into this game. I'm sure, I know AJ is tired and beat up. Remember, this is a guy that not only has to get you 25, 30 a night to win games, he is also often getting the other team's best perimeter player on defense. And so I think it's important, and I'm not trying to fight over who should be the number 1 pick and who shouldn't be, but I do think it is worth noting. One night, and Matt, if you have the tweet, you can pop it up because I did put it up. One night after Darren Peterson chose not to play, minutes before the number 1 team in the country took the court at Fog Allen, AJ DeBonta played all 40 minutes and scored 36 points. Why? Because his team needed him, and his team needed the win. I'm not here to decide. I'm not here to debate. If Darren Peterson goes number 1 overall, I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to cry. There's not going to be any tears coming out of my eyes. All I'm saying is that I do think availability is one of the most important abilities. And if I have a choice between AJ DeBonta, I'll take it a step further. If I could take Caleb Wilson, I probably would over Darren Peterson as well. DP's an incredible talent. I swear, I know some of my tweets probably come off mean or aggressive. I'm not rooting against him, but at a certain point, it would be nice to see him play pretty consistently. He was out on Monday. One night later, AJ DeBonta plays all 40 minutes because his team needed him. All right, before we get to Cameron Mills, let's do a hard pivot to one other topic in college basketball, because I do think it is very noteworthy. It is the recruitment of 5-star superstar Jordan Smith. He is the number 2 ranked player in the class of 2026. And I will tell you this, let's do a little bit of a plug, Matt, for the membership tier, because last week we did our first ever members only live stream and mailbag. And the conversation came up of, hey, Torres, I think it was 5 of the top 10 players are still uncommitted in high school basketball. And we went through Tyron Stokes, and we went through Christian Collins, and we went through Dylan Mingo, and we got to Jordan Smith. And Jordan Smith, up until this week, had been trending to Duke. Why do I bring it up? Membership tier, members only mailbag. Somebody asked me about Jordan Smith, and I said, listen, I can't say it with 100% certainty, but I think Jordan Smith might end up being an Arkansas Razorback. So to bring it full circle, on Tuesday afternoon, shout out to our Torres on the Hogs account, Charlie, who helps run it, first person to alert me, we now have multiple crystal balls coming in for Jordan Smith to become an Arkansas Razorback. That includes, by the way, somebody who covers Duke, which to me is significant. Duke is deemed to be the favorite. Duke was deemed to be the leader coming into the week. So when the Duke beat writer drops the crystal ball for the other team, it's probably a pretty good sign. All right, so let's talk about this. Listen, nothing's done, although it feels as though this thing could happen quick. I've seen some buzz that he could commit as early as this weekend. That part I do not know. But again, we talked about this on the membership tier, $4.99 a month. If you want to help the show, we go on the road. We do shows live from all over the place. We're going to be in Indy. $4.99 a month. We're going to do members only mailbags probably once or twice a month. So make sure to subscribe. It really does help the channel. All you got to do is click the join button. Okay. So Jordan Smith Jr., we talked about it in the members only mailbag. Number 2 ranked player in the class. And what was interesting about his recruitment, it was down to 6 schools as of a week ago. It was Arkansas, Duke, Kentucky, Indiana, Georgetown, Syracuse. And what I said in the mailbag, I said, listen, you can knock out 4 of them, right? Georgetown, it ain't happening. They were kind of the first, he's a DC area kid. They were the first one to really get involved. Syracuse probably going to fire their coach, if we're being honest. They're not in the mix. Never really bought the Indiana stuff. And with Kentucky, this isn't like a dig at Mark Pope, but listen, they're on a list. I don't really know if it was ever serious for them. So it really, in my opinion, came down to Duke and came down to Arkansas. And for me, I think sometimes, part of it, sometimes you have really good information, right? But sometimes you kind of have to reverse engineer where you stand. And so let's talk about the Duke perspective before explaining why I think Arkansas is the leader and will land the number 2 player in the country. Why do I think Duke is maybe now out of the mix? I think it's simply a numbers game. To quote my buddy JJ Redick, it's a math equation, F-head, okay? For people who don't know, we have the clip. We won't play it, but JJ Redick once upon a time called me an F-head on his show. Anyway, it's a math equation, okay? You look at Duke. Going into next year, in theory, they could return their entire backcourt. These aren't guys that are projected to be can't-miss NBA players and are going to be leaving after this year. Caleb Foster, another year of eligibility. Darren Harris, who actually played a lot on Tuesday against Pitt, another year of eligibility. Also worth noting, Caden Boozer, not projected to be an NBA player. Now, I guess in theory, when his brother leaves, maybe he looks at other options. But I bring it up because you have 3 guys on that roster that are all best with the ball in their hands. And oh, by the way, you also have Deron Rippey Jr. committed, a player who is also one of the elite point guards, one of the elite guards in high school basketball, top 10 prospect, 5-star, okay? And so listen, there's talk about could Jordan Smith play off the ball? There's talk about, is there a better spot for him than playing actual point guard? But I said this a few weeks ago. I stand by it, because a lot of people say, oh, Torres, you don't know what you're talking about. He's 6'2", 6'3". He's on the smaller side, okay? He needs to be a primary ball handler to be a productive player in the NBA. There aren't Go look at the NBA. There aren't 6'1", 6'2" shooting guards in the NBA. They do not exist. As a matter of fact, most of the quote-unquote point guards, if we even use that term anymore, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, guys like that are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", Tyrese Halliburton when he's healthy, et cetera, et cetera. And so I just bring it up because for Jordan Smith to play at the next level, he is going to have to handle the ball. And so for me, going to Duke, where they already have one point guard committed and three other guys that could, in theory, come back, it never made sense. I mean, think about it. Even if, let's just say two of the three guys that are projected to come back, Boozer, Foster, and who's the third guy, Darren Harris. If two of those three transfer, that still leaves you 2 point guards on the roster. It still leaves you Caleb Foster, who's starting this year, potentially Caden Boozer, and then also Duran Rippey Jr. By the way, we get so much dust in this room. My nose is always itching. I apologize. And then you still have Duran Rippey Jr. So you're talking about 2 point guards on top of bringing in Jordan Smith Jr. And so this isn't to say that Cal hasn't done an amazing recruiting job, but look at the Duke situation. And now look at the Arkansas situation, okay? First off, let me say this. The best recruiting pitch you can give to Jordan Smith Jr. is just turn on the Darius Acuff tape, right? And this is the thing about Cal. If you're a freshman and he believes in you, he is going to put the ball in your hands and let you, as the kids say, cook. Go back to the days at Kentucky. We don't have to go through all of them. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, John Wall, Brandon Knight. I mean, even some guys you've forgotten about, Marcus Teague. These were guys that as freshmen had the ball in their hands, and John Calipari said, go make plays. I trust you. I believe in you. Ashton Hagans for the OGs who remember that name. And so I only bring it up because Cal lets his freshman guards play, and there is clear, and before we even get to the void that's going to happen, let's remember this. Darius Acuff is playing like an All-American, so that's a pretty good selling point. Oh, you want to be an All-American? You want to be a top 5, top 7 pick? This is probably the place that you want to go ahead and come, because we have proven time over time over time that we put guards in position to succeed in college and then in position to be drafted high going into the NBA. So you add that in with the idea that, oh, by the way, let's also remember the other variable as well, is the fact that that backcourt, I don't know if it's quite the Will Smith, walking into the empty house meme, but it's pretty darn close, right? Darius Acuff is very clearly done with college basketball after this year, as he should be. Can make $2 million in NIL, or you can sign a $15 million 4-year deal that it will become $200 million by the time this decade ends. So he's gone. Malik Thomas, I think, will eventually go. I still think he's going to be a top 15, top 20 pick. You just can't teach that shooting skill. And in this world, teams need shooting now more than they ever have before. So I think Malik Thomas is gone. Obviously, the X factor would be DJ Wagner. But even if you have DJ Wagner, clearly you can play with DJ Wagner can play with other good guards. I mean, he did it with Reed Shepherd and Rob Dillingham at Kentucky, did it with Boogie Flan last year, did it with Darius Acuff this year. So, could DJ Wagner be back? I think in theory he absolutely could be. Now, he's a third-year college player. Maybe he decides to go pro. Maybe he decides to portal and play one more year somewhere else. Or maybe he decides to play at Arkansas. But again, even if he decides to play at Arkansas, let's not, bury the lead here, is that front court is going to be very thin. And so I think Jordan Smith is going to be an Arkansas Razorback. I think it could happen soon. And I think it's pretty much a done deal at this point. And I'll tell you this, listen, let me even do a quick Torres tangent, okay? Because I hear you can't win with freshmen in 2026. Okay. Arizona's literally starting 3 freshmen right now. If the freshmen are good enough, you can win. Duke, by the way, how many freshmen are they starting? 2 or 3? Dame Sarr, Cam Boozer, first guy off the bench is Nick Kamani. Like, Duke plays a bunch of freshmen, okay? Arizona, the number 1 team in the country, starts 3 freshmen. If the freshmen are good enough, you can win with them. And you start talking about Arkansas next year, J.J. Andrews, who's a top 5 player to me, the most underrated player in this class by a mile, is coming from Little Rock Christian, McDonald's All-American. Then, of course, Abdou Toure from the beautiful state of Connecticut, West Haven, Connecticut, stand up. I think you have 3 very intriguing freshmen. And listen, we got all March and April to do a deep dive on the actual roster and who's staying and who's going. I mean, obviously Billy Richmond could be back. Malik Ewan, who of course, he needs to get healthy after taking that elbow to the chin on Tuesday night. He could be back. And all of a sudden, it is a very intriguing team. We'll see what happens with DJ Wagner, guys like that. Those conversations are for another day. I think if you're an Arkansas fan, you should feel good. By the way, Matt, since we have it, do we have the Duke tweet from the other day? One of my favorite Duke burner accounts. If we don't, it's okay. One of my favorite Duke burner accounts, it's called Patrick Gongba Season. I might not have sent it. Just sent us a screenshot of basically conceding the victory. He showed that Jordan Smith Jr. is apparently no longer following the Duke basketball account on social media. All right, Jordan Smith Jr. is in the books. We are in the books as well. I'll tell you what, this is what we're going to go ahead and do. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. I do see the chat is getting a little bit more lively. I do see Kentucky Outdoors Life, one of our best listeners, is joining. And let's do this. Let's actually talk a little bit Kentucky because, so for people who don't know, Cameron Mills, he is a Kentucky Radio Network host. So he hosts pre and post game on the official Kentucky radio broadcast. Cam is a former player, played for the 98 national championship team, played for the 96 national championship team. He now does media. He was a teammate of Mark Pope. He's one of Mark Pope's best friends. I would add this. I had Mark Pope on the podcast in 2020 when he was at BYU. Cameron Mills was the one that helped set it up. So no one knows Mark Pope better than Cameron Mills. No one knows Kentucky better than Cameron Mills. We're going to come back. We're going to welcome in Cameron Mills, UK Radio Network. I will say that's it for this portion of the show. I'm not going to come back. So to everybody tuning in on a Wednesday morning, we truly appreciate your support. We'll be back Thursday morning to start looking ahead to the weekend. Kentucky, Florida, Arkansas, Auburn. A lot of big games on the docket. We'll take a quick break. We will welcome in Cam Mills, but I'm going to go. Thank you again. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres gets you $20 off your first purchase. CallyPuffs.com, promo code Torres gets you 15% off your total purchase. We'll take a quick break. And thank you to Circa, by the way. Cannot wait to start doing some live shows from Circa here in about 3 weeks from now. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Cameron Mills, UK Radio Network, joining the show. All right, we're going to get back to the show in a minute. But before we do, I have so many people that reach out and say, Torres, you give me hours and hours and hours of free content every day, every month, every year. What can I do to help support the show? Well, you want to support the show and look good in the process. Make sure to check out and support the Aaron Torres Media merch store at aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. Some of you wondering, what can I get in that merch store, Torres? Well, Kentucky fans, we got our Mark Pope, Hope and Pope t-shirts. That is right. Mark Pope, monster first year. Year 2 is going to be even better. Get your Hope and Pope t-shirt at aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. Arkansas fans, the Big Pig Invasion is coming. It is here. John Calipari has things rocking. Get your Big Pig Invasion tees. Again, aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. St. John's fans, we have our Big Rick Energy t-shirts. And if you're just a college basketball fan in general, guess what? Your March is for Day Drinking shirt. That is the shirt that you need year-round, but especially for the next NCAA tournament. You can order yours now. By the way, football fans, we got you covered too. Nebraska fans, new era, new rules, the t-shirt that you need before the start of this coming season. And oh, by the way, if you're a Colorado fan, if you're just a Coach Prime fan, we have our Dion shirts and hats, more of them than we know what to do with. So to check out the full line of Aaron Torres Media merch and also support the show, good news is we're going to have even more for the fall. Check out the Aaron Torres Media merch store at aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. And for more information, you can always reach out at Aaron Torres Podcast Questions at gmail.com. Joining me via Zoom. What is there to say? He's one of my oldest buddies. I haven't talked to him at least on camera in a while. I don't know if I've ever talked to you on camera, actually. We've done Zooms. We've done radio interviews when he used to host the Cameron Mills show. But
correct.
Cameron Mills, Kentucky the UK Sports Radio Network. You're just crushing every time I see you. I see a celebration with Mark Pope on the sidelines on Saturday night, and there's Cameron Mills front and center. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
That was accidental. So let me tell you about that, Aaron. So first of all, all the fun stuff we got to do after that game, I've been thinking about this the last 3 days. If we don't win, none of that happens. None of that happens. Was very, very fortunate that we won. I mean, all the fun stuff before the game happens, but none of that. So after the game, Mark Pope's PA, Megan, she comes up. We're sitting right behind the bench, and she comes up and grabs us. She goes, "Come on, come on, come on!" And we're like, "Where are we going?" She goes, "Down on the floor. Coach wants you down on the floor." And I think what he wanted was he was going to go shake hands with Coach Barnes, and then come down, and we were all going to, give him a handshake or a hug or whatever. And so we're all standing there waiting on him to get back, and I hear my teammates in the background saying, "Hey, let's tackle him and do a dog pile." And I turn around, and I'm like, "Seriously?" They said, "Yeah, let's do it." So I'm like, okay. So I'm like first in line, followed by Derek Anderson. And we're like, Mark comes up and he starts getting like real excited, like he's going to jump up there. And we thought, all right, well, let's just tackle him. So Derek and I jump on top of him. We look around and idiot teammates are just laughing at us, just completely set up. So the only reason you saw Derek and I there was because the rest of them didn't have the guts to do what they said they wanted to do. And that's it.
Well, listen, I don't mean to age anybody. You guys aren't young anymore. I mean, we
No,
don't need Coach
absolutely.
Pope with a broken hip or,
Well,
yeah.
if anybody was going to have a broken hip, it wasn't going to be Pope, because though he might be aged, he's in greater shape than anybody on the rest of that team, and I don't think anybody would argue that. He and Jeff Shepard might be they might weigh less than they did when they played. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure Shep did. I know Mark did too, because Mark was strong when he played, and he might still have that bicep that we saw against the last Tennessee game, I guess it was. Whatever, but yeah, but the whole weekend, Aaron, was awesome. The guys got in, a lot of them Friday night. Saturday was just a whirlwind of fun, obviously, because we won the game. But yeah, anytime we all get together, like that was our 30th anniversary. We did a 20th anniversary. You leave the weekend, your sides are splitting. I mean, they're just sore from laughing at all of the jokes, or well, they weren't jokes. All of the things that were funny in. Or all the things that were not funny at all in 1996, now they're hysterical. And you can laugh about it now, because you can laugh about it then, because, I mean, maybe at the lodge afterwards, you're picking at each other, but you're still not laughing because Coach P might walk around that corner at any time. But the whole weekend was just amazing. So we had a blast. And like I said, thank goodness those kids pulled it off, because it would have, and I hate even putting pressure on them like this, but it would have soured the week, not soured the weekend. It would have soured the night, because we still got to have fun and enjoy each other. But man, beating Tennessee again, apparently one of the only ways we know how to beat people, which is from behind. I mean, I mean, they did it again. I don't know why they are so good in the second half and why they're so average in the first half sometimes, most of the time. But I'll tell you what. They have got to be one of the scariest teams in the NCAA right now, because you don't have them beat. There's no point. Maybe, there's 3 times this year: Michigan State, Vanderbilt, and Gonzaga. Those 3 games stand out, because even the Louisville loss early in the season, we battled back and I think maybe even tied the game, if not got 2 points within Louisville. But we're getting to the point where we're learning how to win from behind. Yes. Which just makes us scary. I mean, you might not look at the overall record. You might not look at, the 25-point blowout to Vanderbilt. What is that about?
Yeah.
You might look at that and say, yeah, they're not a scary team. But then you look at how many times we've come back from double-digit deficits and beaten you, or beaten the SEC team, or another team, and you're like, okay. So if I'm an opposing coach, I'm telling my team, guys, you may have them down 25. This game isn't over. And we've proven that year in, year in. So we've got to be scary. We've got to be scary to some teams.
Well, and that was actually one of my takeaways from the Saturday night game against Tennessee, was like Rick Barnes had said some quote of, it's not the biggest game, it's just the next game. And one, I'm not here to question a Hall of Famer and like whatever, but it was like, if there was ever one that you weren't going to come back from down 14 at the half, it's the team that you were just down 17 at the half a few weeks before.
Yeah.
So what is it like being with this team on a day-to-day basis? Because, floor is yours, my man.
I'm not with them day to day. I go because I've got a real job, a real job. I've got another job that pays my bills, and I do get to be part of the UK Sports Network. So I get to go to practice, and honestly, just because Pope's there, Pope is invited. Like how Aaron, you know how coaches come in, new coach comes in and says, "All right, we're going to reach out to the alumni, right? I want the former players a part of the program." Every coach we've had in the last, I mean, maybe even going back to Coach Patino, has probably said that. I know the last few we've had has said that in their introduction press conference. And I don't think they don't mean, I don't think it's that they don't mean it. I think it's that they just get focused on their team and doing the stuff. And look, it's no skin off our back one way or the other. But Mark Pope is like, we've got a committee. Like Mark Pope formed a committee of former players to make sure that we are reaching out to all the former players. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but there's a kid named Dusty Mills who played for Gillespie, right? He played half a season. And the reason he played half a season, he was a walk-on. Reason he played half a season is because I think it was down at Ole Miss. Something funny happened. He's on the end of the bench. A couple of the starters are cutting up, and Dusty's laughing along with them. Still got his warm-ups on. He didn't play a whole lot. And Gillespie, of those three players, Gillespie kicked the walk-on off the team. So Dusty is, and he's got my last name, but we're not, well, we may be distantly related, but we're not related as far as I know. But I know Dusty, and I've gotten to know his dad pretty well. And they are still Kentucky fans, not necessarily Gillespie fans, but Kentucky fans. But this kid played half a year, right? And Mark comes in and tells me and this committee, like, look, if you wore the uniform for a moment, then you are part of the frat. And so Dusty Mills has come into several things, and Mark knows him by name. Mark recognizes him. This kid played one half a season during the Gillespie era. Mark Pope comes in and knows exactly who he is within.
When, by the way, Mark Pope was probably in med school, and it's not like he was. It's not like he was like a GA when that happened. You know what I mean? It's not like, Dusty's a family friend that I helped get into school. It's like, but it means that much to him. Keep going.
There's no way Mark would have known who he was beforehand, but he knows who he is now, and I love the fact that Dusty. I mean, there's so many. Like, look, as a former walk-on, right? And for those who don't know my story, I walked on my first 2 years at UK under Patino. He gave me a scholarship my junior year. Tubby Smith gave me my scholarship my senior year. So I've got both perspectives, walk-on, scholarship player. But as a former walk-on, we're forgotten about a lot. I was fortunate enough to be on some teams that my teammates did not treat me as a walk-on, but most of the time, most walk-ons are. And so as a former walk-on, for any of the walk-ons, for any of the guys who played for 4 years for Kentucky and never played, right? Which looked like that was going to be my trajectory going into, honestly, halfway through my junior year. For the current head coach to know who you are 20 years after your career, I mean, it just speaks to, I think more than anything, it speaks to Mark's, the way he upholds, because he doesn't think there's any difference between what you went through as a walk-through or walk-on and what he went through as a scholarship player. You wore the uniform, therefore you are, and I hate to use the word entitled, but you're entitled to all the fun, in this case, that comes along with it, all the amenities that come along with it. And I just think it's cool that, like, Mark is one of those coaches that have come in and said, we are going to reach out to the former players. He being a former player makes it that it's serious. Like, he is dead serious about it. Like, we've got golf outings planned in the summer. As soon as all my guys, funny thing was, like, because I live in Lexington, so I'm kind of the contact person, especially to my team, right? Mm-hmm. These guys come in, and it's like herding cats. It is like, I mean, it wears me. Sunday morning, I slept till 3 PM. I mean, when they all left, I'm like, okay, I'm done. But they all immediately, when they left, I'm getting texts from everybody saying, guys, Cam, we got to do something this summer. We got to do something this summer. So getting them in town is like pulling teeth. But once they're in town and all of a sudden the stories start going, it's just like, man, nobody wants to leave. Nobody wants to leave. And then after, Saturday night and everything that happened, nobody definitely wanted to leave. And we all just wanted to hang out and play. We wanted to go to bed, but it's just cool because Mark is like leading the charge of making sure former players come back and are part of the program.
So really quickly, I assume anybody listening to this knows this, but you obviously played for 96, 98 championship teams with Mark Pope, who was obviously
97 runner-up. Don't leave that out just because it's a runner-up.
You're right. Hey, Final Four in Indianapolis this year. 29-year anniversary. Time for some revenge. It might even get Arizona again too this year. So,
yeah. Well, you know what? It would the way we played up and down. It would be an honor for them to be back and get Arizona.
Perfect. So, You were there for a couple of the Pope overlap years,
Right.
but I can tell I can tell the audience in 2020 when COVID shut down the world, I'm looking for stuff to do on my show. Mark Pope's the coach at BYU. I get an interview with him, and it's because of Cameron Mills. And so,
Right.
I'm sure I thanked you for that at the time because
You
I
did
was
it
raised
absolutely
properly.
profusely.
But
You thank me profusely.
did I?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, the important point that I was trying to get to is, you and Pope go back for a very long way. And
Yeah.
I'd just be curious, do you have a first memory? It's clear.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Now I've got a first memory, and then I've got a first like core memory with Mark.
Uh-oh. Okay.
And that is because I know I met him before this moment, but this is the moment that stands out to me because obviously I met him but we're walking out of our very first practice, my very first practice, right? Mark had been there his sit out year, right? Because he had transferred in, he had to sit out a year, but he still practiced with the team, right? So this is his first year as a player where he doesn't just practice, he plays, right? So that's my freshman year. So I played with Mark for 2 years. So Mark and I had been in Bible study along with Jeff Shepard and Walter McCarty, honestly going back to when I was in high school. I mean, when I announced I was going to walk on, I found out that Mark and Shep and Walt were in this Bible study with a guy named Max Apple, and my faith is real important to me. And so I was invited to join this Bible study. So I knew Mark because of that Bible study. But I'm coming in, and now I've got my first practice, my first Rick Pitino practice. And let's differentiate between a practice and a Rick Pitino practice. And I'm terrified. I mean, I'm comparing everything I've gone through in preseason conditioning. And I'm like, because I keep being told by a strength and conditioning coach, if you think this is bad, just wait till the exorcist gets a hold of you, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and because that's what that was Coach P's nickname from our strength and conditioning coach, Sean Brown, is the exorcist. And so we're literally sitting there, we're wrapping up our first practice, and it was a brutal one, right? Because we had Midnight Madness the night before. Now we've gotten our first practice. And I mean, I'm sucking wind the entire time. Nobody's in shape for the first practice. And coach knows that, which is why he's working you extra hard. And I remember walking out of Memorial Coliseum up to the lodge, and Mark's probably about 10 feet in front of me. It's just he and I. The rest of the guys are either ahead of us or behind us. And Mark's walking out. I said, "Hey, Pope, hang on a second." And I said, because I'm worried. I'm like, I've just been through this bear of a practice, and I'm like, can I do this again? Because we got another one this afternoon, right, or tonight. This is one, because we're doing 2 days at this point. And I said, Mark, is that about as bad as it gets? And the funny thing about it is he sat there and thought about it, because Mark, just in general, is a thoughtful person. He doesn't typically, like even in his press conferences, he won't blurt out an answer like I would. He sits there and ponders about it for a few minutes, and then he'll come out with an answer. So I asked him that, and he thought about it. And the fact that he had to think about it, man, my blood pressure started rising and my pulse started quaking, because I'm like, man, all he had to say was, yeah, that's as hard as it gets. That's as hard. You're good, Cam. You made it through as hard as it gets. But he thought about it, and then he said, maybe. Maybe. And I'm like, that's the last thing I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear, Cam, that's the hardest practice we'll have all year. That's the hardest practice you'll ever have in your career here. No, he thought about it and said, yeah, I mean, it might be, but here's the thing, Cam. The moment we lose, it's going to get a lot harder than this, because he's not mad today. He's just getting us in shape today. There was a game, Aaron, and I probably shared this story with you before. We beat Georgia, beat them by 12, but they made a little 4-0 run with like less than 2 minutes to go, which we stopped, killed the run, and ran it back and beat them by 12 again. So we were up 12. They made a 4-0 run, cut it to 8. He calls a timeout. He's ranting and raving, throwing things all over the place. Looks at George Barber, one of our GA, and says, you go find out when Memorial Coliseum's available this afternoon, because this was a noon game. So we had plenty of time to practice the rest of the day. But there's a rule that you cannot practice the same day you play a game. At least there used to be. So George Barber comes back and says, Coach, we're not allowed to practice today. So, and again, remember, we're up 8, and there's like a minute left to go. So, yeah, I guess they could have beat us, but they weren't going to beat us. And then, so we wound up beating them. We run it back. We get those 4 points back. We beat them by 12, right? We beat an SEC opponent by 12. We're coming in the locker room, and we know Coach is mad. But you know he's really mad when he's not talking. Like, I mean, he'll yell. You're used to that. But when he comes in, he's not talking. You're like, what the heck is going on? He walks up to the whiteboard and writes 12:01 a.m. You blankety blanks be there. And that was it. And at 12 o'clock midnight, we started what I wouldn't say it was one of the hardest practices we've ever had, but one of the longest, because we watched the game, which took about an hour and a half to run through the game. And then we took the court, and we took the court at 1:30 a.m., practiced to 3 a.m. And then I think he gave us the rest of that day off, but he couldn't officially give it to us off because, well, it was, the clock had run over. So, and that was the thing that really stunk, because we were supposed to have the rest of that Saturday off and all day Sunday. Well, now we've ruined it by only beating Georgia by 12. So now we've got to practice the day we were supposed to have off, and that means he's got to give us another day off. But we didn't care, because that's 36 hours off. Heck, we'd have bounce back in our steps if we go. But that's just what it was like playing for Coach Pitino. And I'll tell you, the fun thing is, Pope's not like that, and I expected him to be. I really did. I knew the cussing wouldn't be what Coach Pitino was, but I thought Mark was going to come in just because he knew what Pitino did and how what Pitino did worked out. Right? I mean, if you coach this way and you have this attitude and you treat your players like this, you're going to get to Final Fours and win national championships. And look, Coach B's proven that every single place he's been.
Sure.
And I thought Mark would come in a lot like that, and he really hasn't. I mean, there's you can see the Coach Pitino DNA in Pope, but he's not like he's easier on his guys. And I think a lot of that has to do with the transfer portal. You can't make your players mad. You can't get your players to hate you, or they'll just transfer.
I was going to ask actually about that. Is that like, I feel like he's the balance of this new age of you can't. I mean, and that's goes for everybody. I mean, it goes for
exactly
Rick Pitino, it goes for Dan Hurley, it goes for everybody. But I think that actually says something, that he is not trying to do a Rick Pitino impression, because there's only one Rick Pitino. And,
True.
You've been around sports long enough to know, like, I think that would actually be a terrible sign if he came in and tried to be Rick Pitino, tried to be whomever. And I think that's part of kind of the fun from a distance to watch, is that it appears as though he's his own man. He's doing his own thing. He's putting his own spin on it. But yeah, I don't even know if it's a question. I think it would actually be a bad thing if he came in and tried to be Rick Pitino.
No, you're exactly right. It would be. Now, I'll tell you what's uncomfortable for me, though, is because, again, I know Pitino's system works. Sure. Because I had it for 3 years. And in those 3 years, we went to 2 national championship games and won 1 national championship. And even if you want to take the layover team to Tubby Smith's first team, we still had that DNA championship attitude. Unfortunately, had a coach that, added some new things, and we still won a national championship. But when Mark comes in, I think he's told me before that his first few years of coaching, whether it be at Utah Valley or BYU, I think it was at Utah Valley, he was trying to be more like Coach Pitino. But Mark, being Mark, had a team of psychologists come in, evaluate his coaching style, evaluate the team, talk to the team, do, reading some peer-reviewed studies about coaching and motivation. I mean, and I'm not kidding. I mean, it is funny. It is hysterical.
How many peer-reviewed studies did Rick Pitino read during his time?
I mean, I don't know. He wrote a few books. I don't know, and I'm sure he read some. Mark is just so cerebral that what's fun watching him on the sideline. And I remember last year specifically watching him, like we would play through ruts. Like, when typically you see a coach say, all right, we got to put a stop to this, timeout, let's talk it over. Mark intentionally lets his team, especially early in the year, play through that for a couple of reasons that he explained to me. One is, I don't want these guys, especially early in the season when it's not win or go home, right? It's win and go on. So those are the opportunities where we have to learn, hey, we can't have coach bail. We're not always going to be able to have coach bail us out with a timeout. And I can look at that and go back to the 98 Duke game where it wasn't Krzyzewski's fault, right? Everyone blames Krzyzewski for not having any timeouts at the end of that Duke game in 98 in the, I think it was the Southeast Regional. His players had to call timeouts, right? Because we were tying them up, or they couldn't get the ball in bounds. So the timeouts were gone. So you're not always going to have a coach with timeouts to bail you out of not being able to stop a run. So he's very thoughtful about that. And early in the season, he won't call a timeout. He also won't. You make 2 mistakes in a row, or the team comes down and has 2 bad possessions in a row, he's not ranting and raving from the sidelines. He just, if you watch him, he'll just sit there and he'll watch and he might direct one or two. And I asked him about that one time. I said, that seems very uncoach like just general as a coach. Like usually you see coaches, you see a team come down, make a couple mistakes in a row, and usually coaches are ranting and raving. And he's like, Cam, I want them to know that one or two mistakes isn't the end of them being in the game. And it certainly isn't the end of the game. I want them to know that, hey, this is a game of mistakes. And it's one of the great things about basketball that I remember Coach Patino teaching us is that the difference between, let's say basketball and baseball is that you strike out in the first inning in baseball. You don't come up to bat for three more innings. You got to wait an hour maybe before you get to make up for that strikeout, right? Basketball is a sport where you immediately get to make up for your mistake. Right now, you see that sometimes to a fault where you see a player turn the ball over and he immediately starts to steal the ball back and you usually get a foul. But Mark is like, he wants to teach his guys like, look, you make a mistake, you turn the ball over, get back on defense, play your assignment, play the game plan and make up for it back there. You'll get an immediate chance, right? Football, you fumble the ball in football, man, you got to go out. Your defense has got to come in. You got to sit over there and stew. And you don't get a chance to make up for your mistakes. Basketball is an immediate chance to make up for your mistakes. And he wants them to be in the game to have that opportunity. So you don't see him doing a lot of until you get to the end of the season. He'll start to pull guys out, but he gives them a lot of the season to learn from their mistakes while still in the game.
First of all, everyone listening probably knows, but casually just dropping the 98 Duke game. Cameron Mills, you can Google Cameron Mills 98 Duke. Some good stuff will pop up. So let me ask you
One shot will pop up.
Well, it was a big one. I was going to ask you, so how tough was it for you, and maybe not even early in the year, as we know there's no job in America like Kentucky basketball.
Right.
And as someone who's not only a close personal friend, but you also kind of know the method to what he's trying to do, obviously early in the season, it was not going well. And I think if I had the institutional knowledge that you did of letting guys play through mistakes and whatever, I might look at a certain game a different way. But clearly it didn't start well. Coach Pope would acknowledge that.
No.
And how tough is it for you, but not just even as a friend, but as somebody who knows, hey, this is what he's trying to accomplish. And then to your point, go ahead.
Now, there was a lot of, punk media people, Aaron Torres podcast. I remember that specifically. Ooh. Just a lot of criticism, a lot of Kentucky doesn't have it. Does Mark Pope have it? No, I'm just kidding. The thing is, and I don't remember you saying that, Aaron, but even if it wasn't you, man, it was Kentucky fans. Like there was one, and I won't mention this person by name, but they were a local media personality here in Lexington. The problem is they are a big, big fan of Kentucky, right? And you know this as a journalist, and I know you've got a favorite college team, and I'm sure your listeners know you've got a favorite college team.
They do, yeah.
And so they do know. They do know it's.
Yes, I went to the University of Connecticut, and I picked, and let the record show, I picked St. John's to beat UConn to bring this all full.
Did you?
Yeah, because I could see. Well, and then I was still called a UConn homer on my show on Sunday. I'm like, I picked St. John's to win. What do you want from me? No, I think, but and I'll say this about UConn, and I know you know this about Kentucky too, is sometimes you do know your team. Now you can get too emotional. Oh, and I think we're all guilty of that. I'll include myself. Yeah, but I think there are also times where you know the team and you know whatever. But anyway, go ahead. But yes, I went to the University of Connecticut, did graduate. I'm not one of those. I just grew up 10 minutes from the campus, and I went to school. I got the piece of paper, but anyway.
But see, that's the thing. But that's what I love about you is that you when you were covering Kentucky a lot in your early days, right? Yeah. I knew you were a UConn boy, and yet you also were covering Kentucky very, very fairly. So you're one of those guys that when I listen to, I know, all right, Aaron knows. I trust Aaron. Like I trust Aaron not to jump on the Duke hate train or the Kentucky hate train or whatever. You're going to be fair, even though you've got obviously a very recently successful program that you love and support. But we had this way, and this is how Kentucky fans can be. And don't get me wrong, I love this about them, and I hate this about them. Where I'll use this one person example, and I won't mention them by name, but they were a local media person. I don't even know if they're still local, but they're still doing media somewhere. And they are a huge fan. And it was either after the Gonzaga game or the Michigan State game where they posted something on Twitter Hey, and this is a quote unquote media member, journalist, however you want to label them, but their passion for the team and for Kentucky doing well overcame them. And so last year, Mark Pope, according to this person, greatest coach in America, right? 15 top 25 wins or whatever the record was he had last year. This year we struggled a bit because I could come up with a lot of reasons for why, but nonetheless we were struggling. And this person tweeted, Mark Pope is the worst coach in college basketball. And I'm like, he didn't just forget how to coach in a year. You understand that, right? You don't go from being the best coach, according to you, to being the worst coach in 365 days. It's not how things happen, especially a guy who doesn't forget anything anyway. So it's just it's this attitude. And it's this immediate response that some people in the media can give, some people that are fans slash media, and then the fans do it all the time. I hate that about what the fans do because I'm like, hey, big picture here, folks. This is a 5-month season. We've got, and I'm not saying we're going to pull off a miracle this year and win the national championship. I mean, I'm not saying we can't, but I'm not saying we're going to. I'm just saying you cannot judge a team by 1 game, 2 games, 3 games. Basketball is an up and down sport. The point is, and I've said this for years because I learned it from Coach Pitino and I learned it from my teammates, is that you just want to be peaking in February and March, right? You can lose, and this is the great thing about our sport. You can lose, and it'll never happen, by the way. I'll throw this caveat in. You can lose every single game of the season. You can be 0-30. Let's say 0-29. You win your last 11. If you're in a Big Four conference, you're national champions. Now, that'll never happen. I get that. But you can literally lose every game. And because if you're in a conference that gets a conference bid, you win your conference tournament, you win the next 6 games, you're national champion. It'll be the worst record national champion we ever have, so we'll never have it. But the point is, I don't care what they do against Gonzaga, against Michigan State. Would I like to win? Sure, I'd like to win. Were those losses embarrassing? Yeah, they were embarrassing. But you think they were more embarrassing to me or more embarrassing to those guys in the locker room? So what motivation do you think that gives those guys in the locker room? Especially when, at the time, we thought we were getting Jaden Quaintance back. Mm-hmm. We thought we were getting Jalen Lowe back. We didn't know we were going to lose Cam Williams, right? You got 3, and you look at our bench, you got one guy that, depending on his knees, probably going to get drafted lottery. You've got Jalen, don't know where he's going to go. Cam's just a sophomore. So you've got, and by the way, Cam, right before he got hurt, Mark dubbed him our best defensive perimeter guy.
Sure.
So you've got all this talent that we don't have, and it looks like we don't have them for the rest of the year. And I honestly, on some level, think that's a good thing. And I'm not saying we don't need those guys. Obviously, we'd love to have them. But I think now this team can say, okay, we're not waiting on JQ to get back. We're not relying on JQ to get back. We have got to go forward with this team. And though we've got some big games in front of us, as far as I know, we still have the toughest schedule for the rest of the year. We've got the number 1 most difficult schedule the rest of the year, which is weird for me to even say because as far as I know, we've had the most difficult schedule all year. I mean, I think statistically that's been the case. We've got some tough games in front of us, but these guys are learning not only how to win, but what's more amazing to me is they're learning how to win from behind. Sure. And that's not a skill that you should have to know, but it's a skill you need to know because I promise you this, in 6 games of an NCAA tournament, I don't care how good you are, you're going to have a game where the ball's not falling in the basket, and you've got to learn how to win a way that you're not used to knowing. Well, I don't know that you can say that about this Kentucky team because they have proven against good teams and bad teams, and it's amazing some of these bad teams where we've been down like 20 or 13 or whatever at halftime, we're not quitting. Sure. I don't know how he gets these guys to believe in themselves in the second half. I don't know what he does. I don't know what he says. But these guys come out in the second halves of these games, and they're not quitting. The one recent exception is Vanderbilt, which that was an anathema, but their gymnasium's an anathema, so I don't count that anyway. But it's just one of those things where this team does not quit. And like I said earlier, if I'm an opponent's coach, I'm terrified of this team. Because I got to have my guys ready to play 40 full minutes. Because if they're still playing 20 minutes, they're up 10 at halftime. Go back to the 98 National Championship or the 98 National Championship team. We won our last 3 games from behind. We were down double digits at halftime of all 3 of those games.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And we won. We were down 10 to Duke at halftime. We were down 12. Maybe it was another 10 to Stanford at halftime. They were down 12 to Utah at halftime. And then, of course, the Duke game that you referred to, I guess I referred to be honest. But you brought up the other part.
No.
We were down 17 with 9.5 minutes left. we had not come back all year like that. There hadn't been a game you could point to and say, they learned how to do it there. So we knew they could do it here. We didn't know we could do it. But what I loved about that team, my team in particular, is I, as a senior captain, and I'm ashamed to admit this, I'm over there sitting on the bench thinking, down 17, 9.5 minutes left to Duke, mind you. Well, I had a great career. I got a national championship. I got 3 Final Fours. I got a scholarship, University of Kentucky. I wore my dad's number. At the time, I was the highest 3-point percentage shooter in the history of Kentucky basketball. I'm second now, behind a guy named Reed Shepherd, which that's
Heard of
fair.
him, yeah.
I love his dad. Don't like Reed very much for that reason, but I love his dad. I'm kidding. I love Reed. And as a matter of fact, I even told Reed, I said, dude, if you beat my record this year, I'm going to be mad for 24 hours, but then I'm going to be thrilled that you were the guy that broke my record. But I'm sitting over on the bench and I'm thinking, I can't be mad. I mean, I'm embarrassed that we're getting beat like this, but I can't be. I'd quit, is what I'm saying. I'd quit on my team. Thankfully, I was on the bench. And thankfully, a guy named Wayne Turner and Shimu Evans, Jeff Shepard, and Nazir Muhammad, and Jamal McGlure, and Alan Edwards, and Scott Padgett, these guys were fighting. And Wayne Turner, above all else, because Wayne Turner's the one that grabbed us coming out of the locker room and said, get me the MFing ball. I'm taking this kid named Wojciechowski to the rim every time. And that's what he did. That's what you go back and watch those last 9 minutes. And yeah, Hishimu hit a 3. Allen hit a 3. Shep hit a 3. Scott hit a 3. Scott's actually the one that should get the credit for hitting the 3 because mine gave us the lead for the first time in the game. But then I went for a Trajan Langdon jump fake and left my feet. He banked it in. They took the lead right back. I went over to the bench for the rest of the game because I couldn't play defense. But Scott Padgett hit a 3 that gave us, I think it was 84-81 lead. It was tied. He hit a 3 with 44 seconds left. That was the game. He never gets credit for hitting that shot. Well, I'll say it this way. He doesn't get as much credit as I get. And he totally deserves it. Totally deserves it. But we had guys that didn't quit, is my point. These guys have learned you don't quit, right? We didn't. I mean, maybe we knew because we had some senior upperclassmen who had played a lot in other Final Fours. These guys don't necessarily have that except for Denzel, who obviously is a national champion. And I don't know if maybe Denzel's the key, but these guys have learned and are learning there is 40 minutes in a basketball game. And Coach Smith, Tubby Smith, Aaron, I'll give him credit because this was his mantra. The most insignificant score in a basketball game is the halftime score. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You got if you can get behind by 25 and a half, you can go ahead by 25 and a half. I don't know if you can go ahead, but you can erase that 25-point lead.
Well, a couple things. One, I thought it was interesting. I hate to bring up this school, but I was watching the Louisville NC State game on Monday.
Doesn't bother me. Listen, I don't hate Louisville the way everybody. I don't hate Tennessee.
Well, I wasn't talking about you. You're a nice, even, level-headed guy, but
that's what you have to be when you play college basketball, and you got to be level-headed. Don't want to get too high. Don't want to get too low. You got to be right there.
By the way, I'll drop, but the point I was going to make was Pat Kelsey kept telling his team it's a 0-0 game when they were up like literally 60 points. But
yes,
and then
you have to do that. Otherwise, teams start eking back in and you start relaxing. And all of a sudden that 60-point leads down to 50 and then to 40 and then to 30. And then all of a sudden you start feeling the pressure and the tightness. And that team's like, we don't have anything to lose. We're still down 20.
By the way, another fun fact for Kentucky fans listening, Scott Padgett once hosted Dirk Nowitzki on an official visit that Cameron Mills does not remember. Because I asked Cam about it. You're like, I don't remember that. Let me ask Scott Padgett. And Scott Padgett was like, oh, yeah, that happened June of 97. Yeah.
Of
Great
course
guy.
He remembers the date. Of course he does. He's got a photographic memory. I didn't even know Dirk Nowitzki made an official visit to Kentucky. I had no idea. And the fact that Scott hosted him makes sense, but still didn't know what happened.
What
difference does it make? He didn't go to college.
No, he didn't. He took one visit to Kentucky. There's a great stretch of guys from that era that say that if they would have gone to college, it was Kentucky. I know Tracy McGrady said that. I know Dirk said that.
Guys, what are you doing? Come get your degree.
Get him in the group text. Get him in the group text.
No. I'm not saying come now and get it. I'm saying why didn't you come get it earlier? Come play for a couple years.
There's a Charles Bediako joke to make here, but I'm not going to do that, Cam. I'm not going to do that. So real quick, just bigger picture with this team.
Yeah.
We've already talked for 35 minutes. We talked a lot about this team, about your relationship with Coach Pope. Yeah. I don't even know. I mean, you kind of covered it. Is that you've won 9 of 10. By the way, do you have any sense for how he? Because let me even ask you this. I know you're not around the guys every day, but you're around them enough.
Yeah.
And I will say, and this is one thing that I did say on the show in defense of Mark Poca, is that whenever I've noticed this now, whenever any team struggles to any degree, it's, well, NIL, these guys don't care about the school, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It's not a Kentucky thing. It's a Texas football thing when they lose. It's an Alabama football thing when they lose. I'm not criticizing Kentucky fans. It's a Louisville basketball thing. It's a UConn basketball thing, whatever. Did you ever get the sense, though, because one, that they like how do you have any sense for how he's turned things around? Because it really is, an incredible job, especially given the injuries. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
Man, well, let me just first thing first, because you're exactly right. It's not an NIL thing, because even before the guys were getting money at Kentucky and at Duke and at UConn and at the big schools, right? The NCAA loves to talk about fairness. When all 365 schools want it to be fair, it's never been fair.
No,
you know what Kentucky's recruiting budget was or is compared to?
You're flying in kids from Germany in '97. It couldn't have been too bad.
Yeah, apparently we were. I was unaware. But yeah, it's never been fair. All right. So I understand the idea that these kids are getting paid now so they don't care. The guys in the NBA are getting paid and been getting paid for it. Do you get the sense that they don't care?
Yeah, that none of them care? Not
that
a single
none of
person?
Them care because they're getting paid? Listen, I've been in the locker room when we lose. Okay. Now I'm not always invited in the locker room. I mean, look, Coach is very, and I love this about Coach. He cares who I am as a former teammate, as a friend, as a former player. But that locker room is sacred. And I'm not on the team. So you're not in the locker room unless you're on the team. Now, after the Tennessee game, he did invite the 96 guys in to talk to the team, to thank the team, to celebrate with the team. And it was so much fun because I'm going around. I remember grabbing Mo Diabate and say, dude, you hit the game winner tonight. He looked at me like, I didn't hit the game winner. I said, you want to bet? I said, you got that rebound off the free throw. And then you immediately, knowing, and I didn't say it like this, but knowing you're not the best free throw shooter on the team, what did you do? You immediately got it to the best free throw shooter on the team. I said, Mo, that's the game winner. We don't win without that play. You hit the game winner. And so, and I'm sitting there and I'm in this room. You tell me that's the madness of it. These guys don't care. When the moment we as the 96 players, Coach hadn't even addressed the team yet, right? They're just in there screaming, ranting, raving, going nuts. No, but nobody was worried about what kind of car they were getting into when they were leaving Rupp Arena.
Great call.
Nobody was thinking about that. We walk in that locker room. These guys are celebrating like they won national championship. Nobody was thinking, man, I'm going home to a nice apartment.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, right.
I got to get my Rolex on. No. They had won a huge game over a rival. I struggle to consider Tennessee a rival. I know they're our border state, and they are a great team, especially with Coach Barnes there. And I adore Rick Barnes. But look, I don't like the idea of rival games because I know the media does. I know it's a hype thing for the media, but we were joking about a few minutes ago, man, I want you level all year. I don't want you too high. I don't want you too low. I want you level all year. I mean, Coach Pitino, though he'd hype it up to the media, to us, we were filled with the idea of, it's just another game. It's the next game, I think you said. Coach Barnes said,
yeah,
right?
He did. Mm-hmm.
And and people think they're exaggerating it. They're not. Coach Brooks, our women's coach here, right, does not even know what his team is ranked.
Sure, I believe that.
Neither does any coach. No coach knows what their team is ranked because it doesn't matter. What matters is the next game. You take care of the next game, the ranking will take care of itself, right? So how Mark has done it, to answer your question, I think honestly, and this is a guess, I don't know exactly because I'm not around the team enough. I don't hear. One of the things at practice, and I'm at a lot of practices, but Mark always coaches with his back to whoever's at practice. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but I keep looking at Deb Moore, the SID, like, can we please put a mic on him? Do you know how valuable this information would be for me and the radio? Sure. I said, I would have something to say. Otherwise, I've got to go up to him and say, listen, you used about 18 words here, none of which I know what they mean, right? Because the words we used to use in 97, they've got new words and this hip analytic language that I am totally unfamiliar with. So I don't know how he's done it, except that what I do know is that Mark being Mark, and this is quintessential Mark Pope, he hates to lose.
Of course.
more than he loves to win. I think that would be fair to say about him. But what he also gets, and I love this about him too, this is how he was when he played. He will go to bed mad and disappointed that he lost or that his team lost. But when he gets up in the morning, he will say, and his wife, Leanne Pope, she's told me this several times because I've asked her, I'm like, listen, I don't want to be, and none of us want to be one of these former teammates or players that, he loses and we're going to, or he wins and we're going to congratulate him. And then when he loses, we're going to ignore him.
Yep.
Like when they lose, we want to pick him up. We want to tell him it's going to be okay. Maybe some of my teammates want to coach him, or why didn't you do this? Maybe you could have tried this, which is fine. But I want to know, what does he need to hear? Like, I love Mark. I love Mark as a brother. I was in Bible study with him for years. Win or lose, I'm going to love him no matter what. So I want to know what he wants to hear. And Leanne says, Cameron, I promise you, look, we knew what we were getting into when we came here. We knew how tough it would be. We knew how tough it would be when we lost. The bottom line is that he goes to bed mad. And he said it the other day at a press conference, y'all don't think I don't curl up in the fetal position and cry myself to sleep when we lose? Now, that's an exaggeration, but I guarantee you it's not far from an exaggeration. Yeah. But she says he gets up in the morning, he's got a different demeanor, and he says, I got a team to lead. Mm-hmm. And I think more than anything, the way he's done it and what is quintessentially Mark Pope is his overwhelming positivity, which is the opposite of the kind of coach that he and I had. He and I had a coach that would drill you into the ground and see if you would rise up on your own, right?
Sure.
I remember, Aaron, it was debated this weekend, as a matter of fact, but I got 2 compliments from Coach P in 3 years. 2 times I can point out that he was building me up. Neither one was directed at me. He was yelling at another teammate and used me as the example, right? So it wasn't, Cameron, you're doing a great job of doing this. It's, you left the greatest shooter in the country wide open in the corner to guard him who can't even dribble with his left hand. And I'm over in the corner like, he's talking about me. He's talking about me. He's drilling you, but talking about me. Mark's not like that. And that, again, it's a difference between he and Coach P. Mark just wants to build this team up and to get them to believe in each other. And I think that's the key thing. Believe in yourself. I don't think that's a hard thing to do. With some guys it is. But I think, because he talked about at the beginning of this year, I need these guys to trust each other. And I think they're trying to trust each other. There was a moment, and I'll shut up after this, Aaron. There was a moment after the Tennessee game, after Colin hit that big 3, right? OA does that drive from the left wing, goes baseline, kind of pretends he's going to reverse back, but then goes around the corner and knows he's got Colin Chandler sitting out here on the wing. He's got a dude open in the corner, but he's got ice in his veins, Chandler over here on the wing, and he looks at the corner and throws it this way. Colin takes that shot, drains it, and I think that's what put us up, right? That's what overcame the deficit we were down. Timeouts called by Coach Barnes. OA, leader of the team, leading scorer of the team, goes up and grabs Colin Chandler, who's, I guess, technically a sophomore, puts his hands on his cheeks and said, dude, you a stone cold killer. Yep. That sort of attitude from OA, that sort of attitude of trusting your teammates, that's what Mark has gotten this team to do. And he said that from the very beginning, is right now, when we were losing those early games, we don't trust each other. Yep. And I think OA may have been one of the key guys, because OA's got to put this team on his back, right? But that doesn't mean you don't use your teammates in key moments, dude. You can't get a shot. You find your 3-point shooter, and he found Colin Chandler, who, I mean, what is that? Like his 3rd one he's knocked down in key moments, whether it's been, I think, two threes and a steal in like the last 4 or 5 games. It's basically iced the games for us.
Yeah, no. And I have said that on the show, is like, even with OA, he had never been like the go-to, like, we need you. And Fraschilla said it during, I guess it would have been the Arkansas game, of like, he's got the best job in basketball of like, you just get to just shoot as much as you want, and we need you to shoot 15 or 20 times a game. So listen, we'll let you go on this, Cam, because you've been gracious with your time. You've already kind of said, who knows what's going on with the rest of the season, because the team, so many ebbs and flows. But I do think it goes without saying, like, you win all these games, there's no doubt that you can beat anybody left on the schedule. I would just ask you, how about Coach Pitino at St. John's, huh? I mean, I'm guessing none of this surprise. I know you can't, you have another job, so, and you're with the Kentucky team, but
right. But
are you at all surprised that he took a dead I mean, listen, I'm a Northeast guy, I'll say it.
Yeah.
St. John's fans will admit it.
Oh, yeah.
Program.
Yeah. For
Big
years
East
they were
regular
dead.
season, Big East tournament last year, beat UConn on Friday night. They're, tied atop the standings in the Big East yet again. Go ahead.
Show me other than the Boston Celtics, which is a different animal. There's college, there's pro. Even though the college guys are getting paid now, it's still college and pro. It's a different animal. You got what, 86 games in NBA or 82, something like that. Something like that. You got 40 in college. You're playing half the schedule, right? It's just a different animal. Show me a place where he's failed in college. Show me a stop where he's failed. So if you're surprised by what he's doing at St. John's, then you don't know this man. He's not going to fail. And I'll even give Steve Masiello, his head associate, a shout out, because Steve, who was my roommate for 2 years, and I adore that man. He's becoming and look, he's already had success as a D1 head coach. Then he had that little fiasco with the thing with UCF and not getting a bigger job, but hadn't graduated from UK. Didn't know he hadn't graduated. And of course, people are like, how do you know you hadn't graduated? It's actually pretty easy to not know you haven't graduated. But I mean, what they're doing up there, the win over UConn, it's been now. Look, it was big for Mark to beat Coach P. I was there, front row and center down in Atlanta, and I wasn't torn. I wanted Mark to win. That's Kentucky. That's my teammate. Yes, that's my coach and my roommate down there on the other side. But I wanted Kentucky to win. But I mean, my ideal world is to see the Cats and the Johnnies in the Final Four.
Wow.
Because I mean, because that would be Coach P's fourth team in the Final Four.
Sure.
I don't think anyone's got three teams in the Final Four, right?
Well, there is one guy that's gotten three teams to a Final Four. He's coaching at Arkansas right now. Yeah, Kentucky, UMass, and Memphis. So yes, but yeah, no, he would. I have to imagine he would be the first one with four.
Yeah,
so Louisville.
Because Cal's the only one I can think of with three, but I didn't even think of him until you mentioned him. But yeah, I would love Coach P to get there. And look again, what's going on? The Johnnies are playing their best ball of the year right now.
No doubt.
That is a cookie cutter Rick Pitino mentality. We're not losing these games, but when we do lose these games early in the season, you're going to learn from them. It's like, and I've used this analogy with you before. There's an old Seinfeld episode, right, where Kramer gets these shoes. It's called the Jimmy, I think is the name of the episode, where there's this guy that keeps referring to himself in the third person. Jimmy does this, Jimmy does that. And Jimmy sells sports equipment, right? And one of the sports equipment is this, and these really existed. There were these shoes, platform shoes with this big like toe on them, right? So there's no heel. So you were forced to basically walk using your calf muscles. They were to build up your calf muscles, right? So Kramer comes in wearing a pair of these shoes, and Jerry's like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "They're plyometric." Jerry said, "Plyometric?" And Kramer says, "Yeah, the muscle has to grow or die." That is Rick Pitino basketball to a T. You either grow or you die. There is no in between. And what I think is fun is watching Mark's little tidbits of that. He isn't that black or white. He isn't that cut and dry. But there is that attitude of if we lose, we learn.
Yeah.
And if we win, we may not learn as much, but it's still a win, right? And I argue with people all the time saying, when Kentucky wanted to go 40-0, I hated that attitude. I hated it because I'm not saying I wouldn't have loved it if we had done it, but that can't be your goal. Your goal is a national championship, and it's self-defeating, right? Or I guess self-confirming because you go 40-0 or 44-0, whatever, you're going to win the national championship, obviously. The goal is the next game. That's all you're worried about. Win the next game, and then win the next game, and then win the next game. But right now, we're focused on the next game, not the Tennessee game. That's in the past. We got to be focused on the next game.
No, and it's funny you mentioned that about Pitino. With the 40-0 thing, that's what I was going to say, is Arizona was, not technically, they lost on Monday night, and Fran Fraschilla said something on the broadcast of, it's not the worst thing that they take this loss, they'll learn from it. And of course, all the college basketball experts on social media, that was one that I sat out, but all the experts on social media, it's always good to take a loss, Fran Fraschilla. It's like, no, first of all, that guy used to coach. He knows what he's talking about. But two, I actually am one that believes in that. I actually, not to make this about UConn, when UConn lost to St. John's, I thought, they had been winning a lot of weird close games against bad teams.
Go back to what year was it? 2014, 15, when Kentucky, who had lost 10 games, UConn had lost 11 games.
14.
Nobody, but they were 8 and 9 seeds or something ridiculous.
Yep.
And where did they wind up that year? The national
Jerry
championship
World
game.
National Championship. Yeah.
That's right. And you all beat us in the championship game. Why? Two teams who had lost an outrageous amount of games based on what the other teams did. They were low seeds, meaning high seeds. I always get that confused. What's a low seed? What's a high seed? They had bad seeds. And yet those two bad seeds who had 10 losses each or more were in the national championship game together. What does that tell you about the value of losing games and what you can? It's not automatic, but what you can learn from that. So these experts, there are far too many people out there who've never played college basketball calling themselves experts. They're not. I mean, unless you've been in that locker room, unless you know what it's like to be down 25 or be down 17 like we were and know game in and over, here's what we have to do to win and pull it out and then learn from your losses. Unless you've been there, then just keep your mouth shut about this nonsense because you don't know. Yes, losses are valuable because if I'm a head coach and I've been telling you, you guys are playing with fool's gold because you're getting out rebounded every game. And yeah, you're winning, but you're getting out rebounded. That's going to bite you in the rear end at some point. If I'm a player that hadn't lost the game, I'm not listening to that garbage. We're 20-0. What are you talking about? Oh, all of a sudden it bites us in the rear end. What do you think I learned? Maybe coach knows what he's talking about. Maybe coach was right. Maybe we need to listen to coach when he's picking us apart on every single level. Because if you want to win 6 in a row and win a national championship, you got to play 6 almost perfect games. One of those games won't be perfect. So then you got to find a way to win, meaning we better out rebound this team because nothing else is going right. They cannot own the boards. Nothing else is going right. That's how you win a national championship. Your last 6 games have to be the best games of the year.
Cameron Mills, my man. Dude,
Love
I'm
you,
so
brother.
glad we could do this. It was
I am too.
obviously
Thanks for having me on.
off week for the Kentucky Wildcats, off week for Cam Mills, Kentucky Sports Network. So as somebody who can't listen to all the games, you're on the radio calls?
So I do. No, hopefully one day. Right now, Jack Givens is our color guy. When Jack hangs it up, I'd love to have that position. But right now I do the pregame show. So it's
awesome.
A guy named Dave Baker, Andrew Kappas, and I do the pregame show. We toss it over to Tom Leach and Jack Givens not long after that, and then they do the call. So yeah, but I'm part of the network, which I've been dreaming to be part of that's the reason I did my radio show. It's like, okay, I need some on-air time by myself with no sidekick, right? Sure. I can have a guest, but I got to be able to get us in and out of breaks and all the radio stuff. I did that show to kind of do my 10,000 hours, so to speak, so I could learn how to do it because I wanted to be in the position I'm in now, which, hopefully one day I'll be doing the radio for the Cats. But right now I am doing radio. I'm just doing the pregame show, but I love doing it.
Well, you're awesome at what you do, man. You know this, but in case the audience doesn't, I consider you a great friend. And the only reason I don't ask you to do this more is because you're a busy man. So thank you for the time.
Anytime you need me, Aaron, I'm happy to help, buddy.
All right, Cameron Mills. You can hear him every single Kentucky game. Appreciate your time, man, and we will do it again soon.
Have a good day.